Hi, welcome back to another Saturday at the car wash and more chaos and just, yeah. So, give a little recap of where we're at on things. Right now, I have bays 1 and 4 open. Bay 2, it's technically openable, however, I've elected not to because the pump is not building enough pressure. It's maybe doing like 800, 900 psi. Not happy with that. Goodness. Sorry, I got dust in my face. So, been working on that, and then went back home last week, and I'm waiting on some parts. And one of the other things I'm waiting on is an effective heater for this room. I'm going with a diesel heater, one of those Chinese diesel heaters that is in like a lunchbox, not a lunchbox, but like in a box. So I can drill a hole through the wall and run the exhaust out the side and use that. Because right now I'm using a kerosene heater and I have my electric heater here. It's about, well, I can't see now because I have the remote app open, but it's like 38, 39 degrees here. It's gotten cold. So yesterday, I was gonna come over last night. We were gonna come over together as a family in one car. Well, 5 o'clock in the morning, I got a call from Ring Monitoring that my temperature in here was low. So I answered that. I'm like, that's really unusual, or I wasn't expecting that because the electric's been keeping up pretty well. Realized it was cold, and then I got an email while I was dealing with that. An email alert popped up from Google reviews that I had a 1-star review. Great thing to wake up to at 5 o'clock in the morning, let me tell you. And it was someone, and he was mad because he put his money in, and I took his money, and he got nothing came out. And I was like, okay, what the hell is going on? So I quickly loaded the dog. I start my day job starts 7 to 3 on Fridays. So I'm like, well, I can get over here and at least see what's going on, start my day here, and do it all in time. So quickly loaded Hank up and everything in the van. We took off and flew over here. I got here and sure enough, everything was frozen up. The heater was off for whatever reason. It tripped. Something in it tripped. Like the electrical's fine, and it had turned itself off, and it was cold in here. It was pretty rough. So I got out there and I validated his number one. Bay 4 was fine. The closest bay here, everything came right up. That end bay, which is always going to be my problem child, it was down. It was frozen solid. If you turn the pressure on and held it open, it eventually cleared out, which is what I got to do, blow through the lines. It takes a minute or so. So, I'm irritated about that. The foam brushes and everything else, got those going. Those are fine. You just have to turn and let it eat for a minute. So I replied to number one. I refunded the guy, and I replied, it said, hey, there's a number in the bay and a QR code. It didn't say that, but you could have called. I'd rather find out about an issue that way than you leaving a Google review. That doesn't help, being a business owner and doing this is making me realize that a lot of the general public are either clueless or they just, there's a culture now of, let's jump to a review. And it's like, give people the chance to make things right. It's actually making me think a lot about my own behaviors. So, good thing there. So, yeah. Got this open, went to Home Depot, spent money I shouldn't be spending because I'm not making much money right now, but need to do it on this kerosene heater. One of those, it looks like it would fit in well in a farmhouse. It actually is doing pretty well in here. I mean, I'm in a t-shirt and it's probably, I'd say upper 60s in here. Yes, I have a carbon monoxide alarm. I've had that already because of the hot water heater. So that gets me to the second part. So last week I was here with Suburban Propane. They came out. They had to do the install for my tanks, obviously, and the gas line into the building because this building didn't have any existing gas service. And they also have to plumb to the water heater, and I had roughed everything in so we could test it. So I fairly quickly was able to get everything switched over and I've got a short that'll be coming out today as well, or around whenever I get this posted, of the hot water heater, of what it looks like filling from the top. And it's just the same tank I'm using. I just literally took the cold water line off the wall and plumbed in the hot in its place. So I have to fix that again, which is the ridiculous AirLogic panel. Basically, I've got something... No, I have a customer. Never mind. I'll stop complaining. I've got a customer in main 4. I'll be back when they're done. Okay. So, where was I? All right. So, yeah, for the customer, which he just rolled out. So, I have to fix the AirLogic panel again. I have... Basically, it loses pressure, and when you hear that, that is where the pump is trying to cycle and pressurize. So I have a small leak somewhere in the panel. It's the tire and wheel cleaner. It's not dumping in any of the bays yet, but I have a feeling, and I need to go in and look, that it is something in the solenoid for bay 1 yet again. There's some, I don't know if it's manufacturing junk or what, or if my wheel and tire cleaner is crystallizing, at which point I'll be calling CleanRite to be like, what's going on here, and maybe I need to switch product, which sucks because I'm sitting on 3 5-gallon containers of it, which makes, that's 45 gallons of tire cleaner concentrate that is at a 600 to 1, or no, 300 to 1 dilution ratio. So that's a lot of cleaner that I have. I took advantage of a sale and bought, stocked up on, so I don't have to worry about anything. Yeah, so few things. So I came in to try and, number one, I was gonna install Dixmoor Wheat Miser, have it on the shelf this weekend, that I've ordered and I've been waiting. And the hot weather, or the cold weather, just caught me. I wasn't able to keep up with it, both for the diesel heater install or for the WEEP system. And WEEP, if you're not familiar, is for the high pressure lines, and what that does, it's a computer that mounts on the lawn. I use computer loosely. It's a logic controller. But there's a temperature probe that you put outside, and it will, if you've ever been to a car wash where you pick the hose up and it's just leaking water out, they have a WEEP system going. That's intentional. You keep water moving through the lines, they don't freeze, your high pressure lines. So what this system does is a little more intelligent than just constantly leaking water. It looks at the temperature and it says, okay, if it's 32, every minute I'm going to pulse 5 seconds of water. I'm using examples here. I can't remember exactly what it is, but every so often it's going to send water down the lines to keep from freezing up. Just city water, cold water, not pumping hot through it or anything. And there's no pump behind it. It literally flips on a solenoid valve. Well, a solenoid valve is my problem because I'm an idiot and didn't pay attention to the appropriate one I needed, and I bought one that is normally open, normally closed, normally open, I think, whatever I need. Normally closed. I need normally open. So I'll have to return this one to CleanRite. Shouldn't be a big deal. Their customer service is top notch. So get it swapped. That'll be my project today, tomorrow. Fortunately, we're coming into a little bit of a warmer snap for the next 7 or 8 days. So I won't have to worry as much, but I need to have it ready before Christmas. Okay, yeah, that was a dry cycle. That's not a customer. So to try and mitigate some of my problems, because I have some issues with the far bay, and this car wash has a design flaw that I'll call it a characteristic. I'll call it a flaw, but my pump room is at one end, and all of my bays are boom, 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 instead of my pump room being central. And the problem with that is by the time you get out to bay 1, that's 100 feet away. And when you're running a lot of hoses, things like that, that's a lot of time. It takes time for any time you change it from wax to soap to fresh or whatever. It takes time to get down there. So that bay is slow to respond. So you get about 10 seconds more for every quarter you put in. Or, I've got things set up to compensate for that. So I'm not screwing my customer. It doesn't cost me much, gives them some goodwill, but it sucks. Excuse me. Oh God, it's a very, very long day, but it sucks that we have to do that. So aside from that, it also causes problems with lines freezing, things like that, as I suddenly hit puberty and my voice cracks. All right. So to help mitigate that, and I'm seeing if it works. If it works, then it works. If it doesn't, I'll find another solution. But I picked up a couple of pipe heat tapes, like what you often have. Like we have them on our house here at the beach, where it's basically a thing that you tape along the pipe, and it's thermostatically controlled. And when it gets below freezing, it will turn on, and they get to about 90 degrees. So I figure, well, let's see what we can do. So I spent the majority of yesterday. I ended up taking half a day off of my day job because I had to get this done, and spent a majority of yesterday running that heat pipe or that heat tape through all of the bays in the middle and bundled all the hoses around it so it can surround them with heat, and ran it back here. Things didn't freeze up today. We shall see. The hot water is working great to the bays. So today was going to be install the weep system. That didn't happen. So I went out to vacuum one, which has been that's the one that was on fire, and I replaced the timer, and the new timer was faulty. New timer works, the second one. Now the coin acceptor in it is faulty. Fortunately, it's a cheap mechanical one, but I'm not certain that it was damaged in the fire, but I wouldn't be surprised. Not a big deal. I've already got one on order. And then vacuum 4 apparently was taking people's money while I went out and pulled the bay off, and pulled the panel off, and it rained quarters, and somebody tried to put what looks to be a peso through it, and it didn't know what to do with it. It tried to reject it, but it jammed up, and then people just kept putting money in on top of it, and they packed the coin exchange or the coin receiver full of quarters. I'm not complaining about the quarters. What I'm complaining about is, again, I don't want to screw my customer. It's bad customer service. It didn't work. I had to have them put at the Jiffy Lube, put in out of service time. I apologize for yawning in my own video. I'm boring myself. Now, so after this frustrating amount of mess and trips to Home Depot, I decided, well, I'm going to come in here and work on rebuilding the cat pump for Bay 2 to make it build some pressure. And that requires a $257 kit from CleanRite, which is basically, they give you a bottle of oil, a pair of gloves, 2 sets of valves, and a set of seals. These things aren't cheap. The plungers that make the pump ride in these brass casings. They have ears on them. To prevent breaking the ears, you're supposed to use the cat pump's tool. So I spent another $40 on the tool. Now they say put this thing in a breaker bar. I did. What I broke were the ears off of one of the cases in one of the existing pump heads back there on that pump. I sheared them right off. I resisted the urge to throw my breaker bar, although I also stabbed myself in the thumb in the process. So I said, well, let's get a bigger hammer, or in this case, an electronic hammer. And I got out my trusty impact driver. Believe it or not, those things make a good amount of torque if you let them just eat. It's not so much torque, it's the repetitive. I was able to, so I completely trashed that other pump head. I'm gonna have to do something with it, but I've got like 4 other spares, but they all need work. They're all old. So I grabbed another 310 pump head, that's what this thing is here, and worked on it with this a bit. The ears on every one of these started to shear out before it got them out, but it got them out. I don't understand. It's a steel head, and they put a tapered brass valve body in there, or this body in there. there's no reason to crank that down. There's an O-ring that seals it. I don't know if somebody did it before, if it was OEM or what. I mean, this pump is probably from 1996, no. Yeah, this is one of the originals. So 96, 97, from when this place was built originally. So, I'm sure it's been serviced at some point. If not, no wonder, But regardless, it's frustrating. I'm going to run it and see if these things work, because these cases are also $43 a piece for a simple brass sleeve with a ridge. I don't even know what that is. And what there is a seal that sits in the top, a seal that sits in the bottom, a plunger that is ceramic that moves between it. So what I'm actually replacing are the top and bottom seals, and they just look like these O-rings. And they were hard as a rock in this thing, and this one was even chipped a little bit. So, yeah, needless to say, and this is a low pressure seal, and you see the spring in there, the internal spring. I'm going to work on these. I'm not going to bore you while I'm banging away at this and pulling it out and probably stabbing myself and cussing. Plus, I have a DoorDash order coming on the way because I'm fat and starving, and I haven't eaten since breakfast today. So I'm going to get to this because I got to try and salvage some sort of productivity for this day and this weekend, because everything I touch seems to either break or blow up or stab me or something. So yeah, I'm gonna start on this and I'll be back. Thanks for watching. So I didn't record everything else I was doing because there was a lot of cussing and I was trying to get things done. But this is that rebuilt pump, new valves. This is the soap line, or the line that feeds the high pressure detergent through this manifold. We have one of them is desalt, one of them is wax, one of them is high pressure soap. Comes through this little pigtail loop, or the thing I made. Comes around here. Pretty good. It's got a little bit of a clatter, if you can hear a valve, a little bit of chatter. This is bay one that I'm dealing with an issue where it keeps barfing oil. It's going to need rebuilt soon. Probably like I just did, if not a little more. I mean, these are all old pumps, but they're $800 a piece, and I can do a lot of the work myself to fix them. This is bay 4. Bay 4, I've got an issue. I'm working on belt tension, but actually I saw someone on Car Wash Forum, this Car Wash Forum I'm on earlier, had posted a thing about how to make a tool with a turnbuckle and some pieces of wood to help push the pump and the motor apart, so you can tighten the bolts one-handed. I've also got a Cobalt bit because I've got to drill Cobalt, not the brand, but Cobalt tipped. I've got to drill holes for these front mounts. They were never mounted, and as you see, when these pumps are running well, there's barely vibration. Again, this one's not actually, it's bypassing because I don't have anything squeezed in the bay, so if anything, it should be shaking more. This guy jumps around a lot. These are the old oil wicks out of this pump. It had been run completely dry. I'm waiting on it to currently shut itself off. I was testing out the coin acceptor on it, because I am actually going to open bay 2. I had to be honest, the pressure is not where I want it to be, but it's better than most people will use from like a pressure washer at home. It's also hot, which helps, I've got some pulsation going on. That pump is not healthy, but it's going to get me through for, a few weeks until I can either figure out if I'm going to sleeve it, replace it, whatever. I'm not in the crazy busy time right now. Come on, people. The things you find at a car wash. Just throw my pre-soak gun on the ground. I have to adjust the tip in that one as well. It rotated. One of my signs blew off in the wind the other day. Hello, Filbert. Filbert's getting ready to get the inaugural bath in bay 2 here in a few. The vending machine, which still needs to be painted. I probably am not going to get to that for another week or 2 or 3 because I have custom paint. I got custom spray paint for the bollards. I'm not going to do the plastic covers. They're just too darn expensive and really, overkill for what I need. Yeah. So let's see. Also, the vacuum over there, which I talked about earlier that I did some work on. I need to get out here with the parking lot sweeper. I got a bunch of junk in the lot. My new propane tanks, the hot water outlet for the hot water heater, which is actually running right now, and you can see a little bit of condensation dripping out of it here. Actually, it is currently in its shutdown state. Now I'm getting a weird, they call it a P1 error, which is a temperature sensor error on that, but it's still working. And everyone's saying like, warranty, blah, blah, blah. And I'm at this point, I just need the damn thing up and running. So I've got some time. The model I'm using is not a commercial model. It is a residential. I'm not putting that much of a hurt on it. Now, I am going to be putting a sink in over here behind this pile of junk. There's actually a vent stack for the floor drain that I'm going to be using. It's not actually a vent stack. It runs down into the drain as well. I think it was a rough-in back there. So I'm going to do that. I got to run hot water lines over to it and everything else, but that's from me. That's not a revenue generating thing. So we will see. I am going to put up some under construction signs on the chain for Bay 3. These little guys. They're chintzy, but whatever. They'll get the job done. I'm going to put those up just because I don't want that distraction of it being in the middle until I can get it going for a day or two. I'm going to go finish programming. I got to program the NIAX, the credit card reader. And I need to also change the coin value because right now it's giving like 9 minutes for $4. The other ones are giving 5 minutes and 20 seconds. So that's a coin value. Oh, this is the old pump value, and this is the destroyed solid brass. I didn't do that I did that by hand. So that shows you, and so you have to run these down to where these tabs are flush with the top of the body. And that one was not. It was sunk in. So somebody's been in here before. So these are the seals. Actually, it sucks because these are brand new seals I put in. However, I did have some spares. It's hard to do this one-handed. Screw it. It's a rubber thing that looks like that. Okay. I am going to close up the safe that I left open because I'm an idiot. I think I'm going to go work on... I look like I'm Smurf. Well, green. But I think I'm going to go get that. I was going to go home and enjoy an early evening. I'm going to go out into the bay, reprogram the Dixmoor timer. It's just easy. It uses this remote that looks just like a TV remote. I'm going to program that for the appropriate time. I got to look on the other box to see what I set the coin value to. And then from there, or the time to, I'm watching to see if suddenly one of the brushes starts barfing out wheel and tire. I'm looking at the, oh, this is such a mess. This is actually one of the things I was doing this weekend as well. So I'll show some of my embarrassing dirty laundry here. So we have, I don't know what the hell you call them. I'll call them a ABSing module, something. But basically, it's not a foam generator. But this little guy right here, which is where you have the blue line is air. In this case, the clear line that's got blue liquid, that's the liquid. And you can see that right above the Y where they come together, it's clear. There's nothing in there. And then it goes into that piece of that PVC, which then goes to the yellow line, goes out to the bay. So, If one of the wheel and tire lines were inappropriately dispensing, you would see green wheel and tire cleaner sitting in that section right, like the clear section right there, right in the center of the frame. There's not. So the leak is not, if it's losing pressure, the only thing it's doing is wasting air, and the compressor has ran, I think, once today. It's a big compressor for the space. So I'm not too worried about it as long as it doesn't stick open and then start just spraying fluid into the bay. I'm inclined to leave that for tomorrow, only because I'm 5 minutes up the road. It'd be different if I had to go back to Maryland tonight. But so I think I'm going to go home and enjoy a nice evening with the family a little bit earlier than usual. And I'm officially going to open up Bay 2. Officially it is now. Oh, the other thing I did to try and get the pressure up, this is a pressure regulator. Basically what happens is it bypasses when you let go of the trigger in the bay, that you've got water comes up here. This absorbs the shock and it sends the water looping back through the pump or the cleaner or whatever back through the pump. And it's a bypass regulator as well. This is how it actually will control the PSI, the pressure that you have. You can adjust this to adjust the internal spring to adjust how much pressure goes out to the bay. I've got it drawn all the way up, so that pump is doing everything it can do. It's really a shame because it's actually it's a 31DS, which don't ask me what the difference is between that and a 310. Cat's website doesn't differentiate as well, and I even thought it was a 310S, but that's quite obviously a D. So not really sure. I got a few things I'm going to do. I'm actually going to measure the pulleys and make sure that, since this is all used, it's existing equipment I don't know a whole lot of the history on. I'm actually going to measure the pulleys, make sure they're the right size, because if they're not, then I'm not going to get the right RPM for the pump. And from there, that motor is strong. They're all Lincoln 3-phase, and it's a strong, I think it's a 5-horse. I think they're all high, but it's got more than enough power for what I'm doing here, especially for a relatively small 5-frame plunger, 3-plunger pump. So I'm not really sure. I'm going to play. I'm learning. I'm learning as I go. The end of the day, if I have to, I'll go order a new cat pump and just put a new 310 in and kind of start down the road of replacing them. I've got down there, I have spares, which I cannibalized. Oh, actually, this is good for you guys to see. So this is when you take the head off of a pump, I'm going to go ahead and take this off my workbench because I don't need it over here leaking water and grease anymore. So as you see how they compare. So when you split it, these are actually the plungers that go in and out. And these are what actually generate your pressure. If you're familiar with a car engine, they're similar to pistons. It's a 3-cylinder. And they do their in and out. There are these valves in here. This one is upside down. This is where it wicks lubricant into the sleeves that lubricate the plungers. These are a ceramic material, if I'm not mistaken. I have got a hell of a leak here I'm just looking at. All right, I got to fix that before I go. But at any rate, and I'm saying it again, but I don't really care at this point. This is how it all goes together. I've got a couple down here to scavenge for parts that are in various shades of roughness. I will say this. These things do clean up well when you hit them with some degreaser and they look nice. So while they look old and decrepit, they actually do clean up and shine, and they're good stuff. They just need some TLC. This whole place needs a lot of TLC. I'm about halfway there, maybe 3/4 with the TLC. And then I'm going to get into the fun stuff that I want to do. There's a lot of fun things I want to do. I'm really working on the marketing angle. This channel, figuring out what I'm going to do. I need to clean up the get rid of the alarm stuff that's not my alarm, and a lot of the camera wiring and things like this disaster, that's the cable for the rear camera, which was properly routed, and then it got shaken loose when we were doing gas work. Getting rid of a lot of this old water lines. So that is the main feed right there that goes up and over. And that's what's feeding the top of the low pressure tanks, and what actually feeds into all the solution tanks, as well as what was the cold water feed. But I think I'm actually going to turn that blue one into the weep feed for the weep system that will prevent the freezing. I'm going to fix this line that's pulled kind of tight, put the weep system right there in the middle. Also, all that wiring it's just 24 volt. It's getting loomed. I have the stuff to do it. It's just going to take time. Those are the control wires that turn everything on coming from the base. The electrical boxes are done. You see the wires coming out the bottom. Those are the trigger wires to turn on the high pressure soap, wax, etc. when you pick that. That's about $60 worth of seals right there that for these cat pumps I'm going to go put up, that came out of one of my kits. Oh yeah, and then we have this line coming off my main, my 2.5 inch or 2 inch or whatever it is main. Yeah, it's 1.5. And then I put this on, and this is where it feeds into the hot water heater. And if you make fun of my purple pipe primer, I really don't care. It is actually code in some areas that you have to use it, and it has to be visible. And I went ahead and used it because I wanted to make sure I was keeping myself honest, plus in case it ever gets inspected. That's our hot water feed. I need to pin it to the wall back there. Right now it's just got that loop in it going up, mainly because I need to figure out the final placement of these racks. I moved it back a little bit. I have a lot of cleaning, a lot of junk to do. Ooh, Sharpie. So I'm going to wrap up here. I'm going to call it a night, put this together, and probably get this uploaded maybe tonight. We'll see how I feel. I'm going to be doing it from the iPad most likely, so it won't have any of my fun transitions that I've been working on that I've done with my Mac. Yeah. So everybody have a good night. Talk to you next time.